Joining us with more on the use of fracking to save an airport is Bryan Walsh, senior editor of Time magazine. Bryan, good morning.
Good to be here.
So Pittsburgh passed this with minimal opposition, but what are really the concerns people should be aware about when it comes to fracking?
Well, with fracking, there's concerns about could there be contamination from fracking fluid in the aquifer, the underground water, actually, that the fracking has to go through. There's worries about spills on the surface, any kind of sort of activity like that. There's worries about air pollution from the actual process. And a big issue, actually, is just the fact you're really industrializing often sort of very rural areas. So you're getting a lot of trucks, a lot of equipment moving in, and that can be very disruptive for the people who live there.
They say this airport or the land nearby offers ideal conditions for fracking. What does that mean?
It means it's sitting on top of multiple shale layers, a lot of gas sitting right there, basically. You can just reach it with one well pad as opposed to having to build lots and lots of different pads, which you see in sometimes in other areas of the country like Texas. And a big part of it, it's owned by one person. So gas companies don't have to go to hundreds or possible thousands of landlords to actually get the gas to just one person.
You mentioned Texas. There we had seen some concerns about seismic activity as a result of this drilling and the horizontal drilling. Is that a possibility for Pittsburgh also that they should be aware of?
Well, with the concerns about seismic activity, it's less the actual fracking and drilling itself than what are known as disposal wells. So when you actually drill and frack, you produce a lot of leftover water, leftover fluid really, has to go somewhere. And in many parts of the country, like Texas, they put them in these wells, and you create a lot of pressure when you're packing in millions and millions and millions of gallons of water. So that can become an issue with seismic activity if it sort of intersects with a fault. With Pennsylvania, that's less the case. We don't have a lot of disposal wells there. So you have an additional problem, of course, which is where is that wastewater going to go? So maybe quakes aren't a problem, but you still have an issue with what to do with this actual fluid.
Serious drought concerns in parts of the country, an enormous amount of water gets used when they frack like this. Is that a concern at all?
I think it is. I mean, if you're looking at a place like Texas again, or say California, where they're considering some fracking for oil, those are parts of the country that are very water stressed. Any additional use for water there is going to be a concern. For Pennsylvania, perhaps less so. It's not really so much from the drought conditions, but as this scales up, which it is around the country, water use and water scarcity will be a bigger and bigger issue.
It seems like a novel idea, but we've seen Denver and Dallas do this, and they've raised a good amount of money. Were there any problems they noticed, or any problems they had that Pittsburgh should be aware of?
Well, Dallas-Fort Worth has actually had some issues with some seismic activity. They actually have disposal wells in addition, so that's a problem for them. For Pittsburgh, again, I haven't seen any issues whether they'll actually have disposal wells, so they may not have that, but for Pittsburgh, really, they're so desperate for funding, I think.
And they're going to get a lot of money from this.
Exactly. I mean, they're going to become really just an airport that has a side business in flying that mostly is a fracking area.
Thanks, Bryan.
Thanks.